Have you ever been out in the woods and felt like you're being watched? Or perhaps you hear a rustling in the underbrush behind you and turn and nothing's there? Or perhaps you see a shadow passing behind the trees just out of sight? Is it all in your mind, or is there something more sinister lurking in the woods? What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and today I've got another book review for you guys, and I'm going to be talking about Boy in the Box by Marc E. Fitch. This is another release from Flametree Press. It just came out last week on April 23rd. I did get an ARC of this through NetGalley from the publisher, so thank you to NetGalley and Flametree Press for allowing me to read this. I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for you guys real quick, and then give you my thoughts and everything about the book. 10 years ago, a mysterious and tragic hunting accident deep in the Adirondack Mountains left a boy buried in a storied piece of land known as Coombs Gulch, and 4 friends with a terrible secret. Now, Jonathan Hollis and brothers Michael and Connor Braddock must return to the place that changed their lives forever in order to keep their secret buried. What they don't realize is that they are walking into a trap, one set decades earlier by a supernatural being who is not confined by time or place, a demon that demands a sacrifice. So this is the first thing I've ever read by Marc E. Fitch, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is his debut novel, but don't quote me on that. But this is the 4th or 5th book I have read from Flametree Press, and this one is one of my favorites from them. This one and The Forever House by Tim Wagner, and I'll put a link to that review up in the corner. But as the synopsis said, our protagonist in this story, it's Jonathan Hollis. We're following him, and at the beginning of the book, him and his buddies go out on this hunting trip in celebration of Jonathan's bachelor party, sort of his last hurrah out with the guys before he takes the plunge into marriage. And they're going out to the Adirondack Mountains for this hunting trip. They go to a cabin, and then beyond the cabin, it's just nothing. It's completely uninhabited. You know, there's nothing out there really touched by man at all, other than other hunters have been there before. But no one lives out there. There's no stores or roads, or there's no cell service or anything like that. And it's this ancient, primordial forest with these mountains and rivers and lakes. And the setting was one of my favorite things about the book. The author, Marc, did a great job with the setting. Making it feel ancient and old, and there's something wrong about it. It feels eerie and unnerving and something unsettling about it. The characters, they'll hear something that's not there, or think they see something out of the corner of their eye and they're not sure what it was. And he does a great job. There's these huge tall trees, and I put in my written review that they seem to block out the rays of hope. This is a very bleak story. But the author, like I said, Marc, did a great job with the setting. Not only does he make it feel old and ancient and like you're being watched, but he also makes you feel claustrophobic, like the trees are literally encroaching upon you. And the scenes at nighttime when the guys are around the campfire, it feels like the darkness is slowly seeping in, trying to smother our characters. So the setting was a great character in and of itself, and one of my favorite parts of the book. But while they're out there in these mountains, this ancient forest, doing their hunting trip, tragedy strikes, something horrible happens, and they decide to, instead of relaying it and telling other people, they decide to bury the secret deep in the forest, and they promise not to ever tell anybody about it. And then upon returning home, their lives sort of take a turn, especially with Jonathan. The secret sort of plants this seed within him that takes root and starts to grow and rot and fester, and fills him with grief and guilt and regret, and he can't tell anybody about it. He swore not to tell anybody because it could alter his life for the worse if he were to tell somebody. So he changes as a person. This one event, this one tragedy, takes him on a different path and really alters his life from what it could have been. And his wife and probably other people around him, they start to take notice. The friends that were in this together, they sort of drift apart and go their own ways. They're not as close anymore. so they don't really talk about it amongst themselves, and they don't tell this deep buried secret to anybody else, and that really weighs heavily, especially on Jonathan. His whole outlook on life has changed. The way he acts has changed. The way he interacts with other people. He sort of starts to drink, and his wife can see that change in him. There's sort of not that same. He's not the same person he used to be. That spark in his eyes, it's gone, and he feels gray and sort of depressed and stuff all the time because of this secret, this thing that happened. Sorry, my nose keeps itching. But something occurs where 10 years later, Jonathan and the guys, they have to go back. They have to venture back out to the mountains, to the forest, to dig up this secret before it gets revealed to the world and really changes their lives and possibly messes up their lives and ruins their lives. Not just their lives, but they're older now, they're married, they have kids. It would ruin their families' lives and so on as well. So they make this next trip out there 10 years later, back to Coombs Gulch to dig up this secret and move it where it will never be found again. And Coombs Gulch, it's different now. Not only was it ancient, primordial, and sort of unnerving before, but now it's almost ghastly in a way. There's no wildlife at all. It's just almost completely silent out there. You don't hear any birds chirping or anything. And it's even more unsettling and creepy than it was the first time around. And the more time our characters spend out there, the more it seems like they start to, especially Jonathan, start to descend into madness. Their minds start to fracture. And we're not sure if what they're hearing and what they're seeing is it really happening? Are they starting to just lose it and maybe hallucinate? We're not really sure. That was one thing I really enjoyed about the book, other than the setting, was the supernatural aspects, the monster, the creature, the demon, whatever you want to say. I really liken it to, sometimes with movies, they'll have this great creature, it's only in the shadows, and it's really terrifying and creepy, and then it'll come out into the light and be shown fully, and it just loses all its mystique and mystery to it. That's something the author in this book did not do. It does show the demon or creature or entity, whatever it is, just a little bit, but mostly it sticks in the shadows. They see it out of the peripheral vision of their eyes or hear it creeping up behind them, and maybe they feel it breathing down their neck, but it never really outright shows the monster. It leaves a lot of it to your imagination, which really lends to the creepiness and how terrifying something like that could be when it isn't just shown full force to you, and a lot is left up to your imagination. I don't really want to say too much more about the actual plot. Like I said earlier in the review, this is a very bleak story, and it touches on those themes of guilt and regret and grief and sorrow and decisions, how one instant, one moment, one split-second decision can alter and fracture your life, take you on a different path than what you would have before. How that one, I can't snap, for those that don't know, that one split-second decision, can alter and change everything for the better, or in this case, in this story, seemingly for the worse. But this is, like I said, it's bleak and it's creepy and foreboding and ominous, and I really enjoyed it. There's this lingering sense of dread as the story goes along, and they're out in the woods and forest longer and longer, as this demon, as it says in the synopsis, starts to show more of itself and makes its presence more known. And this will leave you at the end maybe not wanting to venture out into the woods again anytime soon. But that's all I really wanted to say about it. This was a solid 4-star read for me. I highly recommend it. If you're into stories that take place out in the wilderness that do have these supernatural elements, but it's not full force, like a bunch of ghosts and spirits and things like that. It's more in the shadows and lurking and sinister and ominous than it is full force up in your face. And I really enjoyed that change of pace compared to some other horror books I've been reading. Like I said, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Again, solid 4-star read. This has been Boy in the Box by Marc E. Fitch. from Flame Tree Press, and I did get this through NetGalley for review. But if you've read this, I'd like to hear your thoughts and comments about it down in the comments section. If you liked it, didn't like it, if it sounds cool, if it doesn't sound cool, whatever it may be. But that's all I have for you guys today. So thanks for spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.